What am I supposed to tell my kids?
Well, I think you're underestimating the positive effects that your career transition can have on your kids.
Right now, I make about $150,000 a year. Unemployment's what, $350 a week? Is that one of the positive effects? I guess we can be cozier. We move into some fucking one-bedroom apartment. I can hold my daughter while she suffers through an asthma attack because without benefits, I'm not going to be able to afford the medication.
Tests have shown that children under moderate trauma have a tendency to apply themselves academically. It's a form of coping.
Go fuck yourself. That's what my kids are going to say.
Your children's admiration, it's important to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well, I doubt they ever admired you, Bob.
Look, asshole, aren't you supposed to be consoling me?
I'm not a shrink. I'm a wake-up call. Do you know why kids love athletes?
I don't know, because they screw lingerie models.
That's why we love athletes. Kids love athletes because they follow their dreams.
Yeah, well, I can't dunk.
But you can cook.
What are you talking about?
On your resume, it says you minored in French culinary arts. Most guys work the fryer at KFC, but you bust tables at Il Picatore. You get out of college and you start working here. How much did they first give you to give up on your dreams?
$27,000 a year.
And at what point were you going to stop and come back and do what makes you happy?
It's a good question.
I see guys who work at the same company their whole lives. Guys like you. They clock in, they clock out. They never have a moment of happiness. You have an opportunity. This is a rebirth. If not for you, do it for your kids. Well, David, thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to do this with you, and not really sure what this is going to look like long term, but ultimately this is just a podcast that is for me to have an opportunity to meet with actors and to perform a scene together. I don't get to act a lot these days, and so this is a great opportunity for me to get to act with top-level actors, have fun doing it, and then talk about the industry. So Thank you.
I'm thrilled to do it.
Happy to be here with you.
Especially with you.
Yeah, it's been...
I mean, you and I have worked so much together in class over the years and independent projects. It's always fun to work with you.
Absolutely. Well, I guess my first question for you, and it's one of those things that I've never sat down and asked you, and I've always wanted to, is what got you into acting? Because when I started acting class, there was this old guy, David, and forgive me for saying that.
Yeah.
There's an old guy, David, and he's a really good actor, and I knew that you had started later in life, and so explain to me how you got into acting. Like, what was the catalyst to that, I guess?
Well, I guess I had always been interested. I did some stuff in high school like everybody. I did a couple of plays after I graduated from college when I was single and had the time, because theater is very time consuming. But I had always kind of been interested. I always loved being in the limelight. I was a musician, was in a band. Actually thought that was what I was going to do. I majored in music in college, but at the time that was my backup, and then of course that dream died a slow and painful death.
Yep.
But when my company retired me because I'd been there too long and made too much money, and my wife, Mary, as you know, was a dentist, and she gave me this pretty smile.
Yeah.
And I kept getting so many comments about my smile, and so I decided to pursue modeling,
Okay.
thinking I could, make a little extra money here and there. And I
Yeah.
signed with Maryland's, and when they changed, they had a TV film agent that left, and a new TV film agent came along, and they started pushing me out to do commercial auditions. And the straw that broke the camel's back was I got an audition from C&J for one of those industrials, and so you get and for people that don't know what that is, they're like the training videos from human resources,
Yeah.
and they're usually terrible.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but if you're new to acting, booking something like that's really good experience. So
And
anyway,
money.
I get an audition request at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's 6 or 8 pages of dialogue. I've got to be at C&J the next morning at 10:30, and I just butchered it.
Yeah.
It was awful. So I come back and I call my agent, Anne Marie Rhodes at the time, and I go sit down with her and I say, look, this was embarrassing, and I don't want to embarrass you and this wonderful agency. What the hell can I do? And she suggested coming here to Actors Group. So I called, put it off, called, and sort of, I don't know, I was in class and out of class and not really, I don't know, the light bulb hadn't gone off, but I was enjoying it.
Yeah.
And, but then when Mary got sick, my wife had breast cancer. When she started going through the chemotherapy protocols, I needed the distraction. So instead of coming to class one night a week, I was coming twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's when it really sort of, because I was not in an upbeat mood as much as usual, I kept my mouth shut. I listened more. And like I said, all of a sudden, that light bulb went off. And it switched from being something that I wanted to do to being something that I almost had to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what really pushed me down that road, and to really start working hard and spending more time and concentrating more and listening more and taking more notes and
Making it a craft instead of a hobby.
yeah,
Yeah.
to really try and do the work to become a true professional actor rather than just something that was fun to come do once a week.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
And that's how I started down that path.
So looking back now, what does your wife think about this whole journey that you're on?
She's been really supportive
Yeah.
in every way, and even though I'm sure at first she thought it was an indulgence, but she now actually gets a kick out of helping me audition and be my reader. I was talking about that earlier. She now sometimes I have to say, I don't act.
Yeah.
I don't need you to help me.
Right.
Just read the lines.
She'll have an agent soon.
Yeah, and she also makes suggestions.
Okay.
Now. Yeah.
So she's part of it now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it really is fun, and we have a good time, and she really gets a kick out of it when I book something.
Yeah.
That's cause of me. I helped.
Yeah.
But she's wonderful. She really is, and she has been absolutely supportive.
And she's in remission now, full remission.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. And she retired 2 years ago, so so she has more time to hit me out.
Yeah.
But-
Exactly.
But yeah, it's been a journey,
Yeah.
and and it's one of those things you just have to keep plugging.
Right.
That's the other thing about this industry. It is different from anything else. It's not linear. You get this little part, which means next time you get a little bigger part, which
Right.
means next time you get a little bigger part than
Yeah.
that. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I was
one of
listening to Val Kilmer's biography.
Yeah.
And he talked about paying his dues.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had to pay his dues. You know, in his career, it kind of just launched.
Right.
And then maybe 20, 30 years into his career, it tanked. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I had to pay my dues. And it's a weird dynamic to see that, you know, you have a big
Mm-hmm.
moment of success,
Right.
and then a ghost town, you're in the valley again.
Yeah.
Or some people, it's just a rocket. It's
Yeah.
just a rocket
And
from
I
beginning to end.
think most people don't understand how specific casting can be. You can be a great actor, smash an audition,
Yeah.
but you're too old, you're too young,
Too southern.
you're not quite good looking enough to
Yeah.
be this character. You look too much like a model to be that character. So there's all manner of stuff, and it takes a while to figure that out and to become comfortable with that. I think one of the hardest things for me was to learn how to do an audition and then let it go and
Yeah.
not think about it.
Yeah.
You know, the tendency is when you first start getting asked to audition for something,
Right.
and you go put the audition up and you send it in, and then you, what are we going to do? Are they going to call? Are they not going to call?
Yeah.
When are you going to? Because that's the other thing I think most people don't understand. You don't find out when you didn't get it.
Yeah.
You never hear that you didn't get it. You just didn't get it.
And the worst part is if you tell someone about that audition you were excited for, then they're going to ask you about that audition for the next 3 months of your life,
Yep.
and you know you didn't get it, and then you got to explain that. It hurts more and
Yeah.
more every time.
Yeah.
So I learned pretty quickly to just stop telling people that I had
Yeah.
an audition for whatever, because
Yeah.
it adds insult to injury.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah.
What about
And what I was going to say is
Yeah.
that one of the first things I did, I mean, I had done a bunch of independent stuff, you know, kids at the school. We had done things with Chaz. And
Yeah.
So I had a fair amount of experience. And then I did that one little kids movie, that my first SAG job. And that was a decent part. And then all of a sudden, I'm on House of Cards. I mean, I'm in a hair and makeup trailer
Right.
with Robin Wright sitting right there.
Yeah.
I've spent the day talking to Diane Lane and Greg Kinnear. You know, these are Oscar nominated actors.
Right.
And I did so I had the 3-episode arc of that character, and it's on House of Cards. So I'm done. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's the next thing?
Yeah, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And I get within 6 months or so of that airing, I got an audition from the same casting director for a season regular in a sci-fi thing that I've never seen. I don't think they ever made it.
Right.
But I'm you know, I think I'm done. I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know, let's go.
It's the stage.
And then
you're up.
boom,
Yeah.
nothing. You know, and then you have to go to class, keep auditioning,
Yeah.
try and figure. I mean, and that was tough.
Yeah.
You know, because you having had a 30-year career in business, it's a stepping stone. You know, it's a ladder, a set of stairs, and you do this, and then you make that accomplishment, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way.
Do you feel like, because I was gonna get to House of Cards, but since you've already kind of got us there, do you have any like bitterness towards Kevin Spacey and that whole scenario that happened?
No.
And explain to me, because you shot your entire season, your 3-episode arc originally, and then that season got canned, done.
Actually,
gone.
let me back you up just
Yeah.
a second. I went up and shot the first scene for the first episode.
Okay.
I'm actually one of probably only a few people that have the original script for that first episode of that last season.
If you leak it, they'll come get you.
Yeah, but I went up, I shot that scene, didn't know I thought that was it. I was going to go up, do 2 lines, and come home.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the makeup chair, and the department head always does the first makeup session with the new guy.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting in her chair, and she's looking at me, and she says, "You know, you're going to have to keep this tan for when you come back in December." And I said, "What? Huh? What? We come back?
talking.
What are you talking about?"
Keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we shot that. I come home, I sobbed all the way home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited, and I've been, I've been so pumped that now I've done it, and I'm,
Yeah.
and then Kevin Spacey screws it up for everybody.
Yeah.
And I went most of that winter not knowing, I thought it was just done.
It's done. Yeah.
And Robin Wright, to her credit, they employed about 2,500 people in Baltimore.
Yep.
And she convinced Netflix to put the money in and finish that last season.
Yeah.
So they had to completely rewrite the story.
Yeah.
Well, they had to kill Kevin Spacey off and figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But then, they called me. They toyed with me like this young lady when I was in high school. And I won't say her name. But they called and said, we need you to come back to reshoot that first scene. And I was supposed to fly up on Super Bowl Sunday and tape it Monday. A week before I was supposed to go, they said, we don't need David to come. So now I'm thinking, well, they've written this guy out. They've written this character out.
Yeah.
But it was really because my dialogue didn't change. They changed the dialogue entering the scene and exiting the scene.
Yeah.
And Derek Cecil, who played the chief of staff for the vice president, Robin Wright's chief of staff, said, be glad you didn't have to come because it was 34 degrees and we had to be dressed the same, of course.
That's it.
He said they were making us chew ice chips to keep our breath from smoking.
Wow.
So, but I did get to go back and twice more and do 2 more episodes, and it was great.
Right.
And haven't been on a high dollar budget set like that since.
Yeah. Yeah. How much did your character change from originally to when you finally shot it and stuff? Was it generally the same exact character,
Yeah, it
same
was
storyline, just different
character,
scenarios?
Same storyline. Yeah.
Interesting.
My
Okay.
character was Greg Kinnear's character's best friend from childhood,
Yeah.
and Diane Lane was Greg Kinnear's younger sister.
Mhm.
We did this one scene. There were 6 of us. It was Michael Kelly, Derek Cecil, Boris Kojo, who once I found out he was in the scene, I thought, well, nobody's going to see me. It doesn't matter what I do because he's the handsomest guy on the planet. Diane Lane and Greg Kinnear.
This was the scene in the hotel room?
Yeah, this
Okay.
was the scene in the hotel room. And Diane Lane and I just had to look at her and say her name. And she said my name back to me. I'm leaving. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was Annette and I was Fred.
Yeah.
But, being coming out of the actors group, I'm thinking, how many different relationships could she and I have had? Because I've known her since she was born.
Right.
I'm her brother's best friend.
Yeah.
How many myriad of kinds of relationships could that have been?
Yeah. It's not just saying a name.
Yeah, it's not just saying the name. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Should I ask somebody? Because after this is not something I'll audition for that first scene. So nobody had seen anything for that. And Drew Matthews actually gave me this advice. He said, if you're the new guy and you've got just a couple of lines in this scene, if you're not 1, 2, 3, 4 on the call sheet, nobody wants to talk to you. Go in, make a strong choice, do it, and if they don't like it, they'll tell you.
Right.
Which completely cut off
Yeah.
any anxiety I had. It's no big deal. Just go do your line and go home.
Right.
Or whatever it was.
Yeah. Have
and
fun with it.
Yeah, just go do your thing. If they don't like it, they'll tell you. You've been doing this a while. You're gonna have choices.
Right.
If they don't like the choice you picked for that, they'll tell you they didn't like it, and they'll give you some notes, and then you go do it a different way.
And I'm betting they didn't give you any notes.
No, no. And the Swedish director, Elizabeth, actually, we had rehearsed. We'd gone back, got into wardrobe, came back. I was the first one back to set, and I told her, I said, look, thanks for letting me sit in on rehearsal yesterday just so I could get the jitters out. They let me come watch Diane and Greg rehearse a scene, so I could meet them and get the butterflies out, And I said, I've only been doing this about 15 minutes, so I really appreciate it. She said, well, you don't have to worry because you nailed it.
Yeah, awesome.
And she didn't have to say that. And so that that it's a process to gain the confidence to be able to walk on set and work with people that have been doing it for their entire careers.
Yeah, it's not the celebrity status. It's the actor status. It's that these people can run circles, can run laps around me in this arena, and I'm about to get in that arena with them. Yeah, I understand that.
And watching their rehearsal was two things. I got to see them. I got to say hello to get that out of the way. But also, I got to watch the way they worked, and the way they were working was exactly the way we worked.
Right.
So that there again,
brought it down.
And I have to say, last summer I got to work with David Strathairn, and if you don't know who he is, he's been working for years. I've admired his work for a long time.
That reminds me of a story. I'll tell you in a second.
He was nominated for Good Night, Good Luck,
Okay.
the Edward R. Murrow story.
Yeah.
He was Mr. Lowenstein in A League of Their Own. But we had one scene together, but it was a really good scene, and most of the dialogue was mine, and of course I was still nervous, but we shot mine first, and then flipped, and he was one of the kindest people, very complimentary, and after that, it was validating. I've stood here and had this really decent scene with this guy who has been doing this for years, who's been nominated for an Academy Award, and we just worked together. And he, like I said, he was collaborative. He wanted to know he asked me, what I think about this scene, and there was one line I remember. My character was a Vietnam vet, and he had been an officer in Vietnam, and we're talking about a guy we're at the VFW. It's Wednesday night, and everybody hangs out on Wednesday nights, and he's buying drinks for us, and we're talking about this one guy that's not there because he's not the kind of guy that likes to talk about it. He's one of those that wants to keep it inside and keep the door closed, and I try to tell him, you put this vet hat on, and you get free drinks and movie passes, and people are nice. And I said that last line, people are nice, takes me, because I'm old enough to remember when those guys were coming home, and people weren't nice. And they wanted to get a mustache and a beard and grow their hair out and change clothes as fast as they could, so that they didn't look like they had just come back from Vietnam. So that was a whole thing. But the fact that he wanted to know, the fact that he and the director wanted to know what I thought about it, and we talked about it, and then we did the scene. When I finished that day, I relaxed because I didn't feel like I had to be doing something, like I've got to be doing something all the time to try and get another job or try and do this or try. I just relaxed because this guy basically told me without telling me that I knew what I was doing. And that I was his peer.
Right.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And it just, I think it just taught me that given the right circumstances, and I think this is what happens to a lot of actors, given the right circumstances, the right script, the right part, with the right director, and the right cast, you can win an Academy Award. I mean, I really do believe that there are people out there that none of us know, that given the right circumstances, they could be the person standing up there. It's
not just talent. There's a lot more behind it that the stars have to align for those kind of things. And if your stars don't align, it doesn't mean that you're not a good actor. It doesn't take away your validation as your craft. It's just the stars just aren't going to align that way. So that's part of why we're doing this podcast. I I love acting. I want to do acting. Don Cheadle has a famous quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but he basically says, if you want to be an actor, go be an actor. If you want to be famous, then get in line.
Yeah.
But if you want to be an actor, go be an actor. You can go do community theater. You could do a podcast where you get to shoot a scene with a buddy. You could go shoot your own films.
Mm-hmm.
So define what you want to be.
Right.
But don't get mad when you're not famous.
Yeah.
Because you said you want to be an actor. If you want to
Yeah.
be an actor, go be an actor.
Yeah. And it reminds me, people should go watch Dustin Hoffman's acceptance speech when he won Best Actor for, I think it was Kramer versus Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
But he talks about the fact that there are hundreds of actors out there that don't work, that are working as waiters, and hotel staff, that still have the desire to do what we do. They've just never been in the right place at the right time, and that's just a lot of it. I really do think so.
100%.
Yeah.
I guess you got to this, I won't even say nationally syndicated show. You got all the way to this globally syndicated show. You got on House of Cards. Is that enough for you? If you never got to book anything else ever again and you never got a good audition, would that be enough for you? It's a loaded question.
It is, but let me put it this way: doing a little prayer with Angus McLaughlin and working with David Strathairn, I told my wife, and I've told several people, if I'd had 6 or 8 scenes instead of 1, that's my dream job.
Okay. Yeah.
It's that small independent film with a small cast.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it would be cool as hell to be able to walk down the street and have somebody say, "Hey,
that guy.
You're that guy from that thing." Yeah. They actually made a documentary. I think the name of it was That Guy from That Thing.
Okay.
And it was all about actors. Like at the time, it was Titus Welliver, who was now world famous for doing Bosch. But at the time, you knew him.
Right.
He was in Seven. He was in that. He was in, but again,
That level of success.
he hadn't had that particular script.
Right.
With that, you know what I mean?
And he's good.
Yeah. Oh
he was on
man,
Sons
he's
of Anarchy. He was really
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my I shouldn't even tell this.
Well, now you have to.
My dream is to be part of a small project like that and get to go to the Golden Globes.
Okay.
I don't want to go to the Oscars. I don't want to sit in them damn seats for 6 hours or however long you do.
Yeah.
But the Golden Globes, you get to sit down, everybody's drinking wine, and you got food to eat.
Yeah.
And every time there's a commercial, you get to get up and go talk to some people. I would love to do that. I think that would be the pinnacle of being in this business, would be to get to go there. I don't want to be, I have no aspirations to be nominated for anything, but just to be part of something. Crap. I cry a lot. To be part of something where you help other people do their best work.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why I do this.
Yeah. And you've done that. And you do that.
But to me, there's no better feeling than to do a scene like you and I have done and just get through with it and just be absolutely done.
Yeah.
Just completely washed.
Yeah.
That reminds me, being in this space, I remember I have so many memories of different scenes and different moments where, that's what you do, or this or the other. But the last thing I did in this room in class, June Bunch and I did a POV. And she and I have always loved working together. And
Explain what a POV is real quick. Just
a POV is an exercise that we came up with here in class. Burgess came up with, where we come up with a relationship, like you and I could do father-son or boss employee, and we come up with a scenario, and you take one side and I take the other, and
the point of view.
a point of view. and I argue my side, you argue your side. So the last June and I did a point of view, and the point of view was I was dad, she was daughter, and that she heard from her older brother. Her mom had died when she was young, when the kids were younger. So she and I had been very close, and she heard from her older brother that I was selling the house. I didn't do that. But anyway, her older brother, I had talked with him, and he calls. I was waiting to tell her because I was scared she was going to be mad, which she was. So she comes in, and she's all mad that I'm going to sell the house and I'm downsizing and I'm going to buy an RV and hit the road and go see the country.
This is the point of view.
This point of
That's
view.
the setup.
That's the setup. So we come in, and she starts giving me hell because I'm selling the house she grew up in.
Right.
She doesn't like it at all, and this and the other. And what we hadn't discussed was, and this is mean to do this to somebody when you're doing a POV, you hold back, and I did this to you one time,
Yeah.
but you hold back something
Yeah.
to surprise them. And so we're talking about this, and I'm trying to get her to calm down and not be so mad at me. And then I tell her that the real reason I'm selling the house and buying this RV is because I'm dying.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be the cancer one or
And
the dying one.
of course, she had no idea that's what I
Yeah.
was going to say. And I said, I don't want to, I'm not taking, I said it's pancreatic cancer. I'm not doing anything. I don't want to be sick. I want to just go until I can't go anymore. And this is what I want to do. And then I said, do you want to go with? And she jumped on me.
Yeah.
And we're crying and snot's flying and tears are rolling down. And we got through, and Jim was teaching that night, and he was giving us a note, and I said, we both said that was just so fantastic.
Magic.
There's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
To do that
Right.
and be in it to the point where we are just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so emotional. And then to get through and think that's the most wonderful feeling I've ever had.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's definitely an odd
Yeah.
thing. We did a group, we did a class POV. I guess we call it class POV, where every single person in class took a different mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did it in the round. And Burge let it run for like 30 minutes. We had been begging him to do a multi instead of a two-person, just to do, and he let it run for a good while, and it went all over the place, and it was bad acting, and then it was good acting, and it was it was everything.
Yeah.
And then he finally said, all right, that's enough. And Cranston looked over at me. He said, what a bunch of weirdos we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
To sit
we
around
are.
and do this.
Yeah.
Who does this?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of actors. Bunch
Yeah.
of weird actors.
Yeah. But,
Well,
but
tell
yeah.
me why you picked the scene that we did today. What about that scene? Was it one that you'd like kind of been wanting to put up for a while, or?
I like the writing a lot.
Yeah, it's good writing.
And of course, we made that a 2-person scene instead of a
Right.
3-person. But I like the writing and the having the younger you be the guy with a stick against the older guy. Plus, I had been through it,
Yeah.
and it's not something I've ever dealt with in class or I've never.
You were let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, I walked in one day thinking we were having a sales meeting, and the regional guy says, "Can I talk to you a second?" We walk into this little office, and there's an HR person sitting behind the desk, sort of as the chaperone,
Yeah.
and he says, "We've eliminated your position." What? Huh?
Yeah.
I just finished signing 6 customers' contracts. Oh, that's why you waited for me to get these contracts signed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and probably best thing that ever happened to me because I'm doing this.
Right.
And if I hadn't done that, I would have just retired maybe last year.
Right.
So So yeah, it things work out sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Tell me, I'm probably going to try to ask most actors this when they're here, but tell me your greatest audition story and tell me your absolute worst audition story.
Worst audition story.
Yeah.
It was back before we started taping.
Okay.
Had to go to C&J every goddamn time.
Yep.
Had to go to C&J every time.
Yep.
And it's one that Cranston was in.
Okay.
It was a Hallmark thing.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Glover.
Yeah.
I remember that much. And my character was the local newspaper reporter. And there were two scenes. One was in the barbershop. That was what it was called, I think, barbershop. Anyway, one scene was this, and then one scene was my character shows up after a fire at the church, let's say, and the hero of the story was there and helped do something to save somebody. And so I go in. The reader was awful. And the
that's
director's
pretty common.
Yeah, the
It's pretty
director's sitting there, and when I went in, something was going on, so he and I actually got to chat for a minute. Just, where you from? Yada yada. So I do the audition for this scene, and pretty much did it the same way I had talked about the way I did it the first time. This was actually a callback. So I go in and I do it, and the director goes, "Well, look," he said, "this guy, this is probably the biggest story this guy's ever had, and you've been there so long, you probably own the newspaper by now, but you got fire trucks over here, and this is going on over there, and this is huge story, so let's do that again. Go."
Yeah.
And of course, on the ride home, half an hour up the road, I thought, dang, I should have done this and I should have done that. But that was a great teaching moment because it taught me you don't walk into an audition with a prep.
Right.
One idea, this is my choice, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then the director does that. And
you got nothing.
Yeah, you got nothing.
Yeah.
So that was the worst. Okay, so my
Best audition.
My best audition
Yeah.
story. I actually didn't get the job, but it's one of my favorite. It's still, I think, my favorite audition. It was for the judge in Hidden Figures.
Okay.
The movie about
Okay,
the
I thought you
black
meant the
ladies.
film The Judge.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, I filmed the audition with Jim. It's one of the. It was very early. I filmed it with Jim, and Mackenzie actually got her to come and read because it was it was with one of the young women in the film, one of the leads, and loved it. Loved it. I thought, this is it,
Yeah.
And it was for Jackie Birch. I didn't get it,
Yeah.
but years later, I went down to Atlanta and had a meeting with Jackie, and we just sat and talked for the better part of an hour, I guess. And then before I left, I said, "Would you mind looking at my reel?" She said, "Absolutely." So she watches my reel. She gives me some notes, and then I say, I have one more thing I want you to see. And I played her that audition. And she's watching it, and she said, "Is this for?" "Oh, this is for." "Oh, well, you know who we booked for that?" And she booked Frank Hoyt Taylor, who's been in. You can't count the number of TV shows he's been in.
Right.
But she's watching it, and she says, "Well, this is good. Did you get a call back for this? This is really good." And I said, "No, ma'am." She never saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever her assistant was that called the auditions, she never saw it.
Yeah.
But she loved it,
Yeah.
and it gave me the opportunity to say to her, "Yeah, I saw Mr. Hoyt Taylor do this," and well, I actually didn't tell her I didn't like what he did.
Yeah.
But I thought his choices were just not right.
A little flat.
This young lady is asking this judge to let her go to an all-white high school when it was illegal at the time. It was against the law for her to go. And he said, his last line is, only the night classes. And he's got this smile on his face. He's like this nice old guy.
Yeah.
This guy had to be friends with the governor.
Right.
Had, state Congress people that were friends. His friends at the club were going to find out about it. I don't know. I just thought it was. You can cut that part out.
Hey, it's out there now. He's going to come
But
find you.
it was so cool that I got to show her this audition.
Yeah.
That was probably still is one of my favorites that I've ever done, and she loved it.
Yeah. Well, that right there. But then for any other actors that are watching this, you're
Yeah.
not trying to impress the casting director.
Right.
You're trying to be good enough to where the casting assistant isn't going to be embarrassed to send you on to the casting director. You got to get through them to get to them.
Yeah. And
And
I
that's-
love
that's
and
the challenge
And
sometimes.
I have to say, it has also helped my attitude and my whole perspective about auditioning. When I heard Bryan Cranston, and I had heard he had said something similar, but I finally got to hear him say it. He said he started booking work when he stopped trying to get a job with an audition and just started doing a job. He said, when you get an audition, he said, you're not there to get a job, you're there to do a job. You're there to act and to do this audition as best you can. That's your job.
Yeah.
And that changed my perspective. It's like hearing things that, another great example of hearing something that somebody said differently. Burgess in class always talked about stop trying so hard to be interesting.
It's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, I heard Mark Fincannon. I watched an interview he did, and he said it's much better for an actor to be interested than to be interesting. And just the way he said it, it's like it flipped a switch. Oh, I get you now.
Yeah.
It's more important for me to be interested in what you're doing
Right.
than it is for me to try and be interesting to you.
Yeah.
And something else Mark Fincannon said one time, he said, acting is not something you do. Acting is something that occurs, which goes back to what we've all talked about with doing prep and then letting the prep go. So if you're trying to do it, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do something, it's going to suck, which is, again, what we get back to. You do all your preparatory and you get all of that stuff, and then you leave that back here and you just go let it happen.
Right.
And that, saying it that way just made more sense to me for whatever reason. Yeah.
So I'll tell you my first audition. I've got many bad audition stories, but just to show you how bad I was when I first started, got an audition for Sleepy Hollows, a TV show.
Yeah,
I actually
I
got some.
remember that.
When I first started, I got some really great reads. I wish I could go back and do those reads now,
Yeah.
knowing what I know and having years of training under my belt versus someone handed me a scene in a script that I'd never read and said, "Good luck, kid."
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the auditioning process. They said, "Put it up on tape." Okay. So me and Brooks, both of us, stand in front of the camera
Right.
and run the scene
Right.
back,
Yeah.
side to side.
Uh-huh.
And we sent it off to my agent. She said, "No, idiot. He has to be behind the camera. You are in the front. You're the one auditioning. They don't know who that other guy is." So I said, "All right." So we tried again, and then not to mention how poor the quality was and the audition. The audio, the video, the acting.
I made a commercial one time
You
for an audition for Biltmore. One was a chef, and one was a couple. So it's two scenes for the same audition. I used my nephew's restaurant, went in the kitchen with my chef's coat on and my cap and my bandana tied around my neck and chopped vegetables and talked about while I was doing it. And then I had a friend of mine that I had worked with doing print jobs come over, and we sat at a table with a glass of wine, and I had Palucci came and filmed it for me.
Yeah.
And my agent said, "You're not supposed to make the commercial for him." But that was
But why
when,
not? That's
that
why
was when
I
we-
go, but why not?
But you know, people are. That's changing,
Yeah.
because I know that our friend Mike Kimmel booked a job on a Snapchat the series they did
Yeah.
on Snapchat,
Yeah.
and he did that.
Did he film it
He
as if it was a
basically
Snapchat?
filmed a scene.
Okay.
Had some of the other students help him, and he filmed the scene.
Yeah.
And so people are doing it differently.
I think it is changed. I think COVID changed things. I
Yeah.
think the industry's changing a little bit. I think there's a little less gatekeeping happening with that. I think as long as you're putting in a quality effort and audition, and it's not just about trying to show off. If it actually feeds the audition, if it feeds the story, I think there is some. I also do think you have to reach a certain level of relationship with the casting director
Right.
to be able to get away with that. I think if just out of the gate they've never seen you and you just drop this film in their hand instead of an audition,
Yeah.
they're not going.
And the other thing, sometimes you know, you get these things with audition requests, and they hammer you about make sure you have good lighting and make sure you have great audio and make sure you do this and do that and it looks professional. And you can find auditions of famous people for famous parts where they're sitting on somebody's couch and they've got dialogue and they've got script in their hands.
Yeah.
You know, I've one that comes to mind is Hugh Laurie for House.
Yeah.
He was sitting in a chair in somebody's living room.
But he's Hugh Laurie.
But he's Hugh
And he's
Laurie.
got relationship with those agents and that.
But
You know what I mean?
He wasn't House,
He wasn't House, but
Yeah.
he was. Yeah, right.
but he was Hugh Laurie.
Yeah,
And the audition was killer.
of course.
And I saw another guy that I can't remember his name. I think it might have been Ed Norton. But he's standing behind a couch with pages in his hand
Yeah,
for an audition for some film
yeah,
that he booked. But again, I think a lot of times people worry so much about making sure they've got this and that, and they're putting music behind. They're scoring them now. Auditions I've heard, but people are making a lot of money doing that for people. But they think you got to have all this
Else.
stuff. If you kill it, somebody's going to see it.
yeah,
You know that I think young people now just coming into it, they hear these people talk about what you have to have and what you have to do, and they get caught up in equipment and space and all this other stuff,
lighting.
and they forget that you got to kill it.
Yeah,
You know, you really do.
yeah,
Which reminds me of another aside. One of the things that I have to remind myself is that moment before. That you don't tape an audition and you just walk up and look at the camera and then get your eye line and then do your thing. You gotta remember,
yep. And that's why in our scene
cause a
today,
casting
I brought that up.
a casting director
Yeah,
is not going to watch more than 5 seconds if you're not in it from that first second.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that kept me from booking things because of, you know, in a scene, taking that first line or that first 5 seconds really kind of drop into it.
Yeah.
You got to be in it before you start.
Yeah.
And that moment before, what was I doing 8 hours ago? What was I doing 4 hours ago? What was I doing 5 minutes ago? You know, that really puts it in before you say the first line.
I did. You know, I got to play a waiter on Nashville.
Yeah, I remember that.
My
I
character
remember
walks
that,
in,
yeah.
and all he says is,
What can I get y'all?
Yeah, what would you like to eat?
Yeah.
When I did the audition, I walked from chair to chair asking them their orders off camera, and then came in and said, you know,
Right.
what can I get you to eat?
Right.
Something about that.
Yeah.
I was already in waiter
absolutely.
mode.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the director's name or whatever he said. I loved your audition. And felt that now I'm going, you know, I'm playing a waiter here. Like I thank you for that, but I don't need that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I do think doing those dominoes before I
absolutely.
got here, came in, and I was already in the mode, and I think it helped. I do that a
and-
lot in a lot of
and-
auditions.
Yeah, and for me, that's the easiest way. If somebody asks you to give us 2 takes,
Mhm.
that's the easiest way for me to show them 2 different choices.
Right.
Is just changing what I was doing right before.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things about the scene swap exercise, where you do the same short scene 3 different ways.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of adopted that. What's my word? Anyway, when I was doing those exercises, just changing what happened to you before.
Mhm.
You know, instead of having a really good day,
Mhm.
something crappy happened,
Right.
or somebody pissed you off.
Yeah.
It completely changes your perspective, and you can change the audition completely just by changing what happened to you before you came into the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
And that's one of the simpler tools. That's my word, tools.
Yeah.
It's one of the simpler tools of being able to do something different and do it quickly, like
Right.
when that audition that I butchered.
Yeah. If you had
If I had just said,
Yeah.
"Give me 5 seconds,"
Right.
and just completely change what's going on,
Yeah.
and come back and do it completely different.
And at some point, if the director now asks you that on set and you don't have a prep that works, you've done that enough to be able to find one quick.
Yeah,
You can go, okay, boom, got it.
yeah.
And you can find it quick because you've done it. You've already done that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your? We'll end with this question. I think we need to wrap up.
Okay.
What is your not dream like job? You mentioned you'd love to be a part of something. What's like your dream role? Someone says, David, we're gonna do a whole film based around your dream role. Do you have a dream role? Do you have like a dream character style that you'd like to play? Or
I've, I've actually written a movie treatment. I can't write a script, so I don't have a script yet.
Yeah.
But I have a story, and the story revolves around a little girl who has a hard time in school, and then her mom and dad are having issues, and her mom brings her back to her house, and her father has a ranch, and that's, to me, that would be my dream role, getting to be that dad and the granddad on a ranch with horses and equipment and tractors, and being able to make to film a story about about this guy who has raised a daughter and now is getting a chance to help raise a granddaughter. I think it's a really good story, and that's the kind of role for me that would be my dream role.
yeah,
You know,
you don't want to be jumping off buildings, doing explosions, and
no,
you don't want to be
no
James Bond.
desire whatsoever. No.
That's good. That's good.
No love story
Yeah.
to speak of. But matter of fact, in that story, it's there is a close friend. But yeah, that because that would encompass things that I grew up with, along with the thing that has meant the most to me, and that was being a dad.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's awesome. Well, David, I love you, man.
Love you too.
You're an inspiration to me because I see you and I see this guy who's at the later stages of his life still pursuing dreams, and it gives me hope and joy that I have the capacity to do that in my time. And so, yeah, I just can't thank you enough for being here.
Absolutely, love doing it.